Hey guys, it's Kent here with Backyard Coupe. So we're going to put this rear spring in. I got the cross member and the spring mount and everything in place, tacked up. So I'm going to put this spring in this mount that we made, these U-bolts. Okay, so that's snugged in. So now we're gonna spread this out to 42 inches, center to center on the spring eyes, and then we're gonna mount that axle to it. Hey guys, it's Kent here with the Backyard Coupe. So we're just making some rear axle brackets for the ladder bars. And I just got a little pattern here that I'm going to include in the plans. And I just marked it out on my tubing, traced it and cut it. So now I just have to cut out the little radius that actually fits to the axle tube. And in typical low budget applications. Oh, there's my little dog. Hey, Winnie. I didn't have a plasma or a torch to cut that, and I can't cut that tight of a radius with the zip cut, so I just made a bunch of little cuts there, and I'm just going to bend those off with a crescent wrench, or you could use a vice grip, whatever. And then once all these pieces are broken out, then we can just take a die grinder and clean it up, or just a regular grinder. Let's see here. Sometimes when you're on a budget, think outside the box a little bit. So there's one of them broken out here, you can see. It's not that hard to do, and then I just work my way around, bend all these little tabs out, and then, like I say, just take a grinder and clean that radius out. Again, do the same thing on that side. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish that up, and then I'm going to show you how to. And then I just box this bottom piece in, and then box this end piece in, and box the end piece on the top. And then we've got an axle bracket, and then we're going to weld a plate onto this side of it, and that's where the actual ladder bar will bolt onto. Okay, so I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll show you some more video after that. Hey guys, it's Kent here with the Backyard Coupe. So we're just welding up some suspension brackets for the rear of the car. I've got these ladder bar mounts made up. So I got these set to the side. And what I'm working on now is the rear transverse spring mounts. So I just wanted to show you what these mounts look like. The shackle, so this gets welded to the axle on a regular setup, and then the shackles come off of here, and then your spring comes off the end of that. But we have to talk about this here. This is an okay setup if you've got a heavy axle like a 9-inch Ford, or an older axle that's got a thick wall tubing in it. But the 8.8 Ford, and mine came out of a Mustang, it's the perfect width, and you find them in lots of salvage yards, and a lot of them come with posi track too, which is nice, and they're the perfect width and everything. So that's what I used in mine. But So therein lies the problem. I don't like the idea of, this is a heavy bracket, 3/8 thick. And I don't like putting a heavy weld on that thin wall tubing. And so the way I do it is I make a bracket. This is 3/16 material and it's 3 inches wide by 3 inches deep. So when this is welded to the axle, it spaces it out a lot and it gives it a lot more rigidity, so it's not going to twist or warp the axle tube. And then when we get this mounted, or sorry, when we go to attach this, instead of attaching this directly to the axle tube, I cut it off right about here, and then I just weld that to this 3/16 bracket, so that it just disperses a lot of the stress on the axle tube. So that's the way I do it with these 8.8 Ford. If you happen to get your 8.8 Ford diff out of a pickup like an Explorer, they might have a little thicker axle tubes on them. You'll have to check that out for yourself. But I know the Mustangs, they are rather thin. I mean, mine has worked fine, but like I said, because I do it this way. So anyway, I got these cut out and set up. What I'm going to just do now quickly is box them in. I made some little pieces of 1/8 plate just to box these areas in, and then they'll be ready to attach to the axle there. So I'm just going to quickly tack those in place, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I got that boxed in there. I'll just finish weld it later on, but you can see how that looks. I'll take my camera off the tripod. I just want to show you on the mock-up axle here. I'll show you what it looks like. That's just going to sit like that. It's going to get welded all the way around. And then I got to put one more little cap on the end there. Okay. So that's it for now. I'm going to finish tacking that other one into place, and then we'll go from there. Hey guys, it's Kent here with the Backyard Coupe. So I'm getting ready to fit some brackets to the axle now. I'll get you a close-up here. If you look at the rear of the frame, you can see I got the transfer spring mounted in there, and I just built a little spreader bar with some threaded rod, because when we attach that to the brackets, it has to be spread about approximately 3 inches, so kind of like 1.5 inches on either side. But before we do that, we have to attach the spring brackets to the axle. So I've got my mock-up axle that I made here, and the Mustang 8.8 diffs are a little bit of an oddball size on the tube diameter. So I ended up getting this piece of 3-inch thin wall tubing, which is the only size I could get close to it, and then I had to cut it I had to cut it, a piece off of it, and then I had to split it. I had to slit it and weld it and clamp it together to make it a smaller diameter and then weld it back up again. So the Mustang 8.8 diffs are 2.8 inches in diameter, so that's why I had to do that, because I couldn't find a pipe that was 2.8 inches in diameter. So so the first thing that we need to do then, I've got my axle just set up on the frame rails here, and I got a piece of tubing clamped down, and I'm just going to take this angle finder off. I just kind of made up a pinion, the pinion part of the differential. I just mocked it up out of a piece of square tubing just so we'd have something to work off of, because we have to set this. Imagine this is the pinion. Obviously it would be round in the real case scenario, but like I said, I used some tubing, so we have to set this at a specific angle. And once we do that, then we can attach our spring brackets here that I've got made up. And they'll go on the tubing like that there. So I've got this all mocked up and in position. We need to put approximately 3 degrees of tilt on this pinion. And so in a real life scenario, the front of this pinion would have a flange on it, so you'd be using the tool on it like this, and then you'd set your 3 degrees. But because this is mocking up this way, I'm just going to use that. So that piece of tubing has to sit up 3 degrees from perfectly level. So I've got that all set up. And now that we have that 3 degrees set on the pinion, now what we do is we attach these frame brackets, or these spring brackets, on the axle, and then we're going to set this to exactly level, so that, because the spring and everything else is riding level in the chassis, and then when this is attached it's going to be level, and then the pinion on the axle will have 3 degrees incline on it there. Okay, so I'm just going to set the camera back on the tripod, and then we'll tack these brackets in place, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so now we're ready to tack this spring bracket in place. I got my little torpedo level on there. I'm just going to hold it up to the mark, the line that I've got, and we'll just set that for level. I'm just going to throw a square on there to make sure that it's square to the tubing also. And it's not. So I'm going to have to break that tack. I'm going to put a little tack on the opposite side first. Okay, so I got that nice and level, and I got it square to the tube. So I'm just going to put a couple more tacks on it. Okay, I'll just take the camera off the tripod and show you close up what I got. So there's what the bracket looks like. I'm kind of running out of room here in my shop. And then we're just going to take that spring hanger that I got from Speedway, and we're just going to weld it right to this surface here. Sorry for the shaky on the camera, but yeah, we're just going to weld our axle spring hanger that we got from Speedway to this section of that bracket right there. So I'm going to go do the other side, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Hey guys, so I'm just going to take a little time and put some caps on the end of these spring brackets here. So I'm just going to quickly tack those on. And these brackets are made of 3/16, which is fairly heavy. The caps I use are just 1/8 because they're not really that structural, but they just close everything up. So So there's that spring bracket. I put some really heavy tacks on there, and I'm not going to fully weld it out at this point because I'm not obviously using this axle. It's just a mock-up. So, but I just want it to hold enough so we can attach it to the spring. So there's the little cap. Obviously I just weld that out later, but so that's what that's going to look like. I'm going to go do the other side and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we got this axle. I just clamped it to the frame here and I leveled these spring mounts so they're nice and level, and the pinion has, it's 3 degrees incline. So now we can mount these ladder bar brackets. I've got my lines marked here, so I'm just going to fit those to the line, and we're going to mount those perfectly level the same way we did the spring mounts. Hey guys, it's Kent here with the Backyard Coupe. So we're gonna tack these spring hangers now. I've got them set up on those brackets that I pre-tacked to the axle tube, as you can see there, and then this here piece is that piece I got from Speedway Motors. Again, it initially has this radius, so that you can tack it right to the axle tube, but like I talked about, the Mustang 8.8s are pretty thin, so I put this other bracket on there initially, and then I just cut this off and in turn weld this to the tubing, the piece of tubing bracket that I've got on there. Just distributes the stress a lot more and the heat a lot more, so you're not going to pull and warp those axle tubes, because if you do, you're going to end up burning out your bearings in short order. So if you've got an older differential with a heavy wall, by all means you can just use these as they come and just weld this directly to the tube. But like I said, on these Mustang 8.8s, they're a little thin, so we'll take some extra precaution. So I'm just going to tack those in place, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Oh yeah, so the spring, the eye to eye on the spring, on that high arch spring, which I'll give you the number for, of course, in the plans, is 39. So we've got to set the eyes on these mounts 3 inches wider than that, 1.5 inches wider per side. So I measured this out center to center, 42. So it's all good to go. So we'll throw a couple tacks on here, and then I'll let you see what it looks like. And then we'll just about be ready to mount it. It's a little bit crooked, so I'm just gonna just fix that up here looking at it. I'm just gonna tweak it up a little bit. to stick weld this in because I got to get a really good weld on there. My MIG is a 220, little 220 machine, but still I don't like using MIG on that heavy structural stuff, so I'm going to stick it in later. Okay, so I got that passenger side one in that you can see there, and I guess I gotta move my camera back a little bit, sorry about that. And my driver's side one installed there, you can see. Okay, so I'm gonna put some heavy tacks on there, and then we're gonna mount it to the rear leaf spring. So I'll be right back. The spring mounted down now to the shackles and those spring hangers that I got from Speedway Motors. Those in turn I got welded to the spring brackets, and the brackets are tacked onto the axle, the mock-up axle that I have. And then back in here, these are the ladder bar mounts from behind. And yeah, so everything is in place. I've just got these U-bolts finger tight so that it can move a tiny bit if it needs to. So that's what that looks like from the back of the car. And now I'm gonna show you how to install the ladder bars, but first I just want to show you a close-up of the ladder bars. Okay, well, here's what the suspension looks like from the front. So these pieces of scrap here, I got one here and then one on the other side here. The only reason I've got those on there is just to keep the axle straight in the frame. And remember before I was showing you this little mock-up pinion that I put on, and I've got this piece of tubing clamped to it, and then this cross member here, I got those pieces tacked on. I just got a clamp to the frame rail with a couple little spacers and a spacer here. All that is, it's not complex. The only thing that's doing is giving me my 3 degrees angle on that pinion. So that pinion is set at 3 degrees, just like it would be on the real axle. And then these here, let's see, where is this? And then the ladder bar brackets right here, these are perfectly level, or at a 90 in this case. So everything is ready to go on this ladder bar cross member. I've got it marked where my tabs are going to go for the front of the ladder bars, and I just clamped a little piece of angle iron here on the bottom so that I have something for them to sit on while I clamp them in place. And I've also got a couple of little tabs on the bottom of these ladder bar mounts at the back, just so I can set them down in there to make it a little easier to tack up. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the ladder bars. I just want to show you what they look like. I'm not going to build them for you on the video here, but I just want to show you what they look like. And they're very simple to make. They're just made out of 1x2 1/8 wall tubing and 1x1 1/8 wall tubing, and the back piece here where they mount is 1/4 inch, and this gusset here is just 1/8 inch to hold everything together. You might not think that 1/8 wall is very heavy, but these are very strong, and I've had some pretty hard launches and they've never given me any trouble or bent in any way, shape, or form. So on the back here, this is a 1/4 inch piece of plate, piece of flat iron. This is what's going to get welded to those mounts on the axle. And then they just bolt, and then they just get bolted to the actual ladder bar. These are the tabs I've got. These are 3/16, and those are going to get welded to that ladder bar cross member. And I'll just show you at the very front. Get this thing to stand up here. At the very front, I've just got the 1x2 piece of tubing notched out, and then I've got a piece of pipe welded in there, and then those rubber bushings go in there. But yeah, all that'll be shown on the plans, how to fit those up. They're easy to make. And all these bushings and everything are from Speedway that I get. You can get them as a kit, and I'll of course give you the part numbers for that. So yeah, that's what they look like.